Hello, welcome back to the studio. You might hear some noise outside. We have a little storm coming. We're still working on the Manet flower. Um, Still black and white. I can't wait to start working with colors again and something. Sometimes, it gets a little bit, I wouldn't say boring. It's never boring to paint. I don't think so, but it's repetitive. But, I feel I've been doing the same painting my entire life, which the one I haven't painted yet. And hopefully I will make it look good someday. So this one is my favorite one. So I've painted it at least 6 or 7 times, I think. It's the one that is at Orsay. I think it's at Orsay. It's on a blue blue violet background, and it's just a stunning little bouquet. So we're gonna start on this one. I'm gonna start with just a little setup. Little, just putting things together. Just to know where I'm going. Sometimes I start with the background, as you know. But this time I want it to be a bit different. So we'll do a little drawing lesson. I think that's gonna be fun to work on drawing. I haven't done that for a long time, so I will be glad to do it with you guys. We just need to figure out what we're gonna draw. There's tons of things to draw. So let me go to the close-up. So now that you saw a little bit what I've done from the distance. So that's the thing, after you've done a series of flowers like this, if you do the whole series with me, you're going to be at between the colored and the black and white. You're going to have done, I don't know, I need to figure out. I think we're like at 10 or 12, something like this. So after a while, you're going to get more and more used to it. You're going to get more and more comfortable. You're going to start feeling more and more free. And that's exactly what we want. To get to that point of where painting becomes more free, more alive, more, so some say more systematic, but once again it's an exercise. It's not like we're trying to make a masterpiece. On the other hand, as I told you, I've tried to find a little bit of a way to use those paintings in my own work. And so for me, it has a goal of creating larger paintings with all of them combined. There's a French painter who did that long time ago. Did something actually with the Monet flower. His name was Louis Kahn. He's still alive. I think he might be pretty old now, but and I always love those paintings because I love the simplicity. I think sometimes you find some paintings and they're just beautiful. They just, they work so well. There's a couple of Monet's painting, Monet landscapes, that are just so beautiful for that reason. They're simple. The balance, the composition, everything is so well found. And I think this one is the same. There's some paintings like this that I would just really absolutely adore, and I could copy them hundreds of times without feeling bored. There's one, for example, I know that a lot of painters use that painting as some sort of the holy grail of painting. It's the portrait of his slave by Velázquez, the one which has the Met. Maybe one day we'll do a real exercise with that painting. That would be fun. And it's just a beautiful thing. I mean, the balance of colors, of composition, everything in that painting is just perfect. And you don't know why, but some paintings are like this. Sometimes it just there's some sort of a meeting between perfection and timeless. Switching to a smaller brush. Oh, this one is not happy. It's an old one, obviously. I think it was this one. This one is getting to a point I might have to replace it. It feels like he went to war and came back several times, and now he's just like, oh my gosh, I need to rest. So all those exercises, the goal of those black and white exercise is to understand the importance of the light. And there's a big thing that you need to understand, is that white doesn't make the light. It's more complex than that. It's not because you're going to put a lot of light of white in a color that it's going to be more bring more light. You know, sometimes light, like for example, I remember talking about Monet. I'm sure you know that painting, and if you don't, you should look at it because it's just really interesting. It's called the Magpie, and it's one of the few paintings where Monet put something alive in the. I mean, sometimes he puts little dudes or little guys walking around and so on, but this one, it's painting a fence under the snow, and so the painting is beautiful itself. But then he had that really interesting idea of putting a magpie, and I'm sure the magpie came at some point, but maybe she stayed for barely 2 minutes and flew away, and he put her in the painting, and the painting is called the Magpie, and the painting became about the magpie, but it's kind of an excuse. It's kind of a, you know, it's like the tree hiding the forest. Anyway, long story, short story. The magpie is, if you look at the colors on that painting, if you look at the fence, it's really fascinating because the whole fence, I mean the snow and the fence, there's no white. There's no white. It's all colors. Oranges, violet, green, blues, and so on. And then at the end, he gave us the feeling of light, but in a much more interesting way than just painting the snow white and the and you know, playing just with kind of black and white. Actually, a lot of painters, I've noticed that there's a lot of painters in the United States that paint landscapes, and a lot of them paint snowscapes, and they use that contrast of orange and blues and so on in a really beautiful way. But Monet was one of the first ones to do it. So I'm mapping once again. I'm just trying to put things in relationship to each other. I see that there's a little black triangle here. There's, you know, something like this here. There's a little Z or whatever in the sky. I mean, in the space. So yeah, understanding the power of colors versus the power of white. That is really, really interesting, and I really hope you will get that from those exercises, which is basically trying to find the... Sorry, as you can tell, I have some dogs, and I'm pretty sure they heard something. You might have seen my German shorted pointer on some of my videos on Instagram. Her name is Ella. She's like all the German shorted pointers. She's completely nuts, but we love her this way. We have also a little Yorkie poodle. Her name is Ami. And they both sisters, not the same size. So you see, I'm just mapping things. That means that, you know, so I see some lighter color, I just put a lighter color and so on. I don't need to really, so you see, for example, there's this little line here, and this one is really difficult because if you put it too light, too much white, it's just going to jump out of the canvas and just turn into something awful. So the one before, I started with the vase, and you see this one is the way around. So there's no rule, just do as you wish. You can use your fingers sometimes to just wipe off some of the colors. That's really important, that angle here, that's what gives the depth. If you don't have that, you have something flat, pretty much. So that's the fact that that vase is, you know, it's like the ellipse when you paint a circle or something. There's some shapes like this that are just important. Just something that, you know, I was talking about the tree that makes the forest. It's exactly like this. That's the tree that makes the forest. So working on the, you know, I told you, so I'm working on the, you can hear the storm. I'm working on a black, I mean not a black, gray, light gray paper. So the great thing is that I don't have to paint everything because I can use that light gray paper as almost like a color participating to the thing. So you don't have to cover everything. Now if I had some white paper, of course, I could use the white paper in those areas. But because I don't, it's okay. I'm going to change of, so you see it's almost done. You know, it's like you build a house. You build a house and you make the foundation, you make the walls and so on. You don't start putting the handles on the door before the house is kind of conceived. So now I'm at a point where I feel like my construction is kind of okay. So now I can start playing with some details, which I could not have done earlier. Now I'm going to use my fingers a little bit on this thing. I usually don't like to really touch the painting with my fingers. I know some painters paint with gloves. Yes, I get it. It's toxic. It's just there's some toxicity in the painting. But if you're careful, I think you don't have to wear gloves. I mean, Da Vinci didn't have gloves. A lot of old masters, there was no gloves. And Titian died, he was more than 80 years old. I think there's more chance to die of intoxication by meat or something you eat from some fast food or things like this, and you know, dying because you're a painter and you got intoxicated with painting. So I don't know, if you want to paint with gloves, it's up to you. You're not going to see me painting with gloves because I don't like it. I've tried, and it depends. You know, when I was working abstract, you know, I was talking about it a bit earlier in the video, we're using a lot of weird stuff. When I say weird stuff, I'm talking about like painting, industrial paints, and so on. So when you do things like this, yes, maybe you want to use gloves, but I'm using just turpentine and the oil from the tubes without any kind of, I use a little bit of liquid, but not that much. So, I mean, I'm sure if I talk to a doctor, he's going to tell me, oh my gosh, you need to wear gloves and so on. Yeah, you need to wear gloves when you fill up your tank of gas. You need to wear gloves when you touch any kind of chemical, and we touch a lot of chemicals during the day. So I just want to reassure you, I think it's going to be okay if you don't have gloves. But once again, I don't want to be the one saying don't wear gloves and get into trouble for that. I just don't. You know, it's like when I've noticed it, like when I was a kid, there was a lot of mechanics that were working without gloves. And now they're all working with those, you know, rubber gloves and so on. But for mechanic, I understand it's a bit different. You know, when you have the grease under your nails for the whole day and so on, and you have to wash your hands like 50 times before you go back home, then it makes sense to use some gloves. So you see, I'm making some details now using that thinner brush. So basically, as I said, I put the foundation of the house, I put the walls, I put the roof. So now I can start putting the curtains and all those little details. There's something so magical about that book here, about the composition, about the transparency, about the abstractivity, I don't know how you say that, of the vase. It's just a bunch of lines, a bunch of things, and still we can read it. I mean, everybody can see it's a vase. Well, if you look at it really, it really doesn't look like something so detailed. So try to get that energy, try to understand how he did it, you know, the energy of the light and so on. And you know, the other thing that is important to understand as well is that, and you can try it with one of your friends, or you know, next time you're talking to someone and that person is facing you, and you're gonna have a hard time to see the color of the shoes. So you know, it's almost like we know they have shoes, of course, but we don't see the colors of their shoes. And so if you start painting a portrait or anything, and you look at the shoes while you paint the shoes like you're looking at the shoes and not at the face. Of course, the rendering you're going to get is going to be different than if you just paint the face and then you paint the shoes like you're looking at the person in the eyes. My vision of painting, the way I paint, is more like I paint the shoes like I'm looking at that person in the eyes, and that's why I will try to communicate with you. But now that doesn't mean that you cannot do the shoes looking at the shoes. It's really up to you. It's a decision we're making. Actually, you know, painting is all about making decisions. It's just about that. It's just about, I need to make a decision and I need to stick with it. And if you're straight with yourself, if you just keep your decision, that might be when your painting is good. Maybe a good painting is all about sticking to the decision we want to make and that we think are important. But you know, everything I'm painting is a decision. Everything I'm doing is a decision. Everything I'm just putting there is just me deciding it's going to be this way. Am I right? I don't know, but at some point I need to say something. Otherwise, you know, you can stay in front of the freaking thing, the white canvas. You know, we talked about, I mean, we haven't talked about it yet, but we can talk about it, the vertigo of the white canvas. It's called, I don't know if it's translatable in English, What I mean by that is a lot of young painters, they get overwhelmed because they look at the surface and they think, oh my gosh, what I'm going to do? And of course it's overwhelming, but we need to, at some point we need to make the decision of doing something. And you know, there's a philosopher, his name is Brad Pitt. I'm kidding, but it's actually, I think he said something like, I'd rather regret what I've done than regret what I haven't. And you know, it's not about being a fan of Brad Pitt or not. There's nothing about it. It just I think it's a thing to say. It's just, you know, I'd rather do something than spending the rest of my life regretting I haven't done it. It's the same thing for painting. Just do it. And you know, the other thing that is really important to say is that there's no recipe, but hard work, consistency, and repeating. You will never become a good painter if you don't spend time painting. And I'm sorry, it's true. I mean, you can, you know, there was people like, you know, Bob Ross and so on, who are full of tricks. Bob Ross was the magician. He was just like saying, you know, you take your brush and you want to do the leaves and you just... It's a trick. He doesn't paint leaves, he paints a trick. He paints a shortcut to leaves. And it worked. Now, the prime, and we all, I mean, we don't, maybe you know about it, but the work of Bob Ross is not really valuable because it's a lot of tricks. And tricks, after a while, they don't work anymore. So don't do tricks. Do truth. You see something, you paint it. You take that decision. And so each time you paint something, you're going to make another decision about something else, about, you know, like, is that there, blah, blah, blah. And then if you act like this, everything is going to say is going to be the truth. And it might not be the absolute truth, but it will be the truth of that moment for you. And therefore, people are going to connect with you, with your work. They're going to feel your honesty. You know, it's like, and don't make me wrong, I'm not making a strange comparison or something like this, but it's like dogs. Dogs know when, I mean, most of the dogs, I'm not going to say all of them, but most of the dogs know, they feel if you love them or not. They feel if you're a dog person or not. It's the same thing for viewers, you know, like people who goes in galleries and so on. You know, I've noticed something over the years is that when I feel like I have a good painting, you know, that's usually the one that people love the most. So you know when you've done something interesting, and I think you know when you've done something not interesting. And I think the difference most of the time is the intention, is the energy, is the love, is about the communication you have with your work. Okay, and you see I'm painting, I'm talking at the same time, I'm not thinking about what I'm doing. It's just flowing through me, and you know, I think it's something important to just let things happen. You know, it's like a tennis champion or any kind of guy who is really good at sports, you know, like a quarterback or a soccer player and so on. The guy doesn't think like in front of the goal. He doesn't think like for hours thinking, am I going to put the ball here or here or here? No, you just do it. You just do it. You take the decision. And that's what I want you to do. You know, it's to make those decisions. There will be good ones, there will be bad ones. There's no way you're not going to make any bad decision, and there's no way you're going to make any good decision. Even the greatest painters have done paintings that are not good. I've seen a Rembrandt a long time ago at the Louvre, and I I think it's Balthazar or something like this. And it's such a funny, the guy is just like, oh, like this. And it's really a funny painting. I'm not sure it's a good painting. Anyway. Okay, let's unveil. I'm starting having a lot of tape on my easel, so let's do that. Both legs at the same time, that's the best. Up. It's like taking off socks. Let me go back to the... I don't know if you can really see it. It's kind of... the cameras are a bit tricky, but I will post some photos of the final images anyway, so you can see more. Okay, we are at... the series starts taking shape. Okay? Okay, talk to you later. Have a good day.